Hi everyone, I'm Desmond from Global Migration Solutions. With us today, we have Greg McKean from Queensland State Immigration. Hi Greg, welcome to Malaysia.
Thank you, Desmond. Great to be back here with you in Malaysia again.
Yes, so Greg has just went on the roadshow and he has completed Vietnam. We were there together, and this week or these 2 days, he's going to be in Malaysia to meet up with some of the clients who is exploring the Queensland as the destination and to obtain the PR in Australia. So Greg, welcome again. And there are a few questions that I'm taking this as an opportunity to run through with you.
Of course.
So, you have been in this industry for a long time. And would you like to share about why people always keen about obtaining the PR in Australia?
Well, Desmond, obviously they're looking for a new life for themselves and their family, not only from, I guess, a lifestyle position, but also investment as well, right? And
Indeed, yes.
I think the statistics show that Australia and Queensland in particular did very well during the COVID pandemic for the 2 years.
Yes.
Our economy suffered very little, and to be honest, we didn't have the big closures that other states in Australia had, so our economy was able to keep ticking along pretty well, right? And the benefit that we have, right, in Queensland is we have such a broad economy, right?
Yes.
We have resources, minerals, we have agriculture. People still need minerals to produce. They still need coal to have power. They still need agribusiness to feed their families, right? And in the tourism industry, which is another one of Queensland's major industries, we found that people who couldn't travel or couldn't even travel in their own state were able to holiday in Queensland quite freely. So our tourism industry fared reasonably well as well, right?
Yes.
So I guess what that meant was when the pandemic started to ease, the economy opens up more and quicker. Quicker than most other states in Australia and also many other economies around the world.
Yes, and I guess that gives the migrants a lot of confidence, not only Queensland, but overall the economy in Australia. Australia is one of the developed economies and growing economy over the last 20 years.
Sure.
And I think that Australia also has the advantage of being the closest to the Asia gateway.
It does.
Yes.
I mean, just the economy-wise, right? Our share market has rebounded back to the highs of the pre-pandemic times, right? Sure, the interest rates have gone up a small amount, but comparatively around the world, our interest rates are still very, very low, right, in historical terms.
Yes.
So the place for investment, right?
Yes.
You couldn't ask for better times, right?
Yes. And that explains why Australia came up consistently as one of the top migration destinations, especially for the high net worth individual. And Greg, would you like to share about what is your thought about, why Australia came up again consistently as the, top destination for high growth, high net worth individual?
I think, first of all, Australia's location, right, compared to Asia, relatively close. Same time zone, so that, for a high net worth that have their businesses dotted around Asia particularly, right, they can still run their businesses from, the laptop, the Teams meeting, the Zoom meeting. All of that new technology that came on board during the pandemic proved that, you didn't need to be in a certain location all the time. You can manage remotely, right? And I'm pretty sure that happened for a lot of people looking for a safer place, better healthcare, better education, relaxed lifestyle, good security, all those sort of safety issues that they look forward for their family to, right?
Yes. And I think from what I've gathered among the clients, Australia, doesn't impose the inheritance tax and the wealth tax. I think that also encourage a lot of high net worth, looking at growing their wealth in Australia for the next generation.
Sure.
Yes.
Our company tax is coming down in incrementally all the time, right? So, for people investing in Australia, that's a good point. Like in the next few years, company tax is estimated to be around 20%, right?
Yes.
Might be around 29% at the moment, but it's on a downward trend consistently, right?
Yes.
And that's because the economy is fairly in good shape, right? And of course, Australia now is very much open and looking for investment to come into the country, right?
Yes.
So for all that excess capital that's sitting around in other countries looking for a place to go, Australia is a good destination for it.
So people always have the perception that Australia has a high tax, and this is such a great news, in terms of corporation tax, and that actually ease and encourage more and more business migrants looking at setting up the business in Australia.
Of
Indeed.
course, yes, indeed, yeah. And and then you're looking at people in Australia, right? Where are they going as well, right? Where are the migrants going? Increasingly, we're seeing, and I've just been, as you say, on a 2-week trip of Vietnam. I did roughly 20 seminars in that time, right?
Yes.
A very busy time. But all of them very well attended, significant business people in Vietnam, looking very closely at Australia as their next destination.
Yes.
And the really good feedback for me is they've heard that Queensland is now the better place for investment for the longer term, right?
Yes.
We've got a number of major events coming up in Queensland, not the least the Olympic Games.
Olympic Games in next 10 years' time.
In 2032.
Yes.
The amount of investment that'll come into Australia and particularly into Queensland over that time from overseas, it's estimated to be around 16 billion to Australia and about 8 billion directly into Queensland, right?
That's significant.
So that's the capital flows indicating where the new growth market is for investment, right?
Yes. And some of the clients that we have met already, we can see the right matching business of what they are already doing at their home, on their home, and they could relatively set up the same business over there in Queensland.
Queensland and Australia has a very broad economy, as I said, and Queensland has the most broadest number of industry sectors as well, right?
Yes.
And so it's the most common question I get asked in seminars is, what should I invest in Queensland? I said, well, you can invest in many asset classes and many industries in Australia. My advice is, what has made you successful in the country where you live, right?
Yes.
Look at that first, right? And do the research in Queensland first to say, well, is there an opportunity for me to take what makes me successful here to Queensland? And oftentimes the answer will be yes, right? It might need to be modified slightly, but the answer will most probably be yes. So I always say stick to what makes you successful, right?
Yes. So we spoke about overseas migrants, but interstate migrant. Queensland again came out as the top number 1 among the interstate migrants.
Queensland flying against the tide, right? The Australian Bureau of Statistics did a study in last financial year, 21-22, has said Queensland had a net 40,000 people migrate from southern capitals into our state, right? Every other state had a negative decrease in their population, right?
Yes.
So once again, Australians themselves are voting with their feet and saying, we don't want to live in super big cities. We don't want to live in cities that are congested and hard to get around and move around. We want, good clean air for our kids to play in the park, good schools, good health. And yet, that statistic alone tells you that there's now a movement from the south, right, up to where there's more opportunity in Queensland, right?
Yes.
And the reasons, one of the big reasons for that is the affordability of our state, right?
Yes.
Housing costs are generally half of what they would be in Sydney and Melbourne, right?
Yes.
So then if you sort of go up to the next level, next quality of home, right?
Yes.
You sort of go for, say, $1.5 million in Brisbane, right? You would be paying $3 and $4 million in Sydney, right?
Yes.
It's exponentially more all the time, right?
Yeah.
So many in New South Wales, Victoria, selling up their home there, and they can come to Queensland and buy 2.
Yes.
Or buy one and have more money for a business, right?
Yes, for the business. So
they're starting a new life. Starting a new, and this is what migrants do, right? They're starting a new life, right?
Exactly.
The affordability issue is a big key, and lifestyle is a big key, and both of those ones get the big tick from Queensland.
Yes. So if you have not decided on where about you're going to start off in Australia, that all this information and updates certainly gives you some good directions on where to start off. And let's back to the overseas migrants. So let's talk about, from the migrations perspective, what would be the suitable programs for business owner and the investor. So we have these visa programs, subclass 1AA, which cover, business innovation, investor, significant investor, and these are all the common and the popular programs. And this is also the priority, of your trips, of your roadshow. You are trying to share all these programs with people exploring the PR. Would you like to share a little bit about the business innovation visa? Often the time we call that 188A.
Still, from Queensland's point of view, the biggest visa that we nominate for and the most popular amongst new business migrants, right? But and that will be the same for some time, I think, right? It's the easiest one to get into in terms of affordability, and also that issue what I said beforehand of taking what you're good at here and deploying it in Australia, in Queensland, right? But I do, and I guess with the investor visa, the 2.5 million, and the significant investor visa, last year I saw the investor visa take quite a big drop because the investment amount was increased from 1.5 to 2.5 million, right?
Yes.
So people get a bit wary, right?
Yes.
But this year already, starting to see it's coming back up again, right?
Yes.
Because that visa offers great flexibility in terms of, okay, you have to put $2.5 million into complying investment fund in Australia, but then you've got 2 to 3 years, right, to explore the business landscape, right, and see, what's going to make the best sense for me and my family in terms of investing in a business in the future.
Yeah.
So it gives you that flexibility, right?
Yes.
But I think the big surprise for me is, once again, high net worth that are really coming out of, say, a pandemic where they're living, right? And they see their economy struggling a little bit, right? They're seeing healthcare's overwhelmed. They're looking now to say, well, the significant investor, 5 million, right?
Yes.
For high net worth, they can afford this, right?
Yes.
And they see the flexibility of that visa of only having to be in Australia for 40 days per year of the complying investment framework, right? They see it as a very flexible way to continue their building their businesses overseas, right?
Yes.
Build their business in Australia slowly over time as well, right? But just gives them the flexibility to be able to do that, move around, run their businesses freely, gives an option for their partner and for the children to be able to stay in Australia itself for that period of time, get good schooling, get good health care, nice lifestyle, right? So I see this one is actually going to be quite popular as well from the feedback that I've got from the high net worth there, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Greg. I think, when the law changed to increase the investment amount from 1.5 to 2.5 million, and at one point, I was worrying that whether or not that investment amount is just too high. But I think since July last year, we have gotten a lot of the positive feedback, and we have clients who has already embarked on these programs. And people liked, generally clients like the options of the investment they have now, compared to in the past, it was just on the government bond. But now all this investment are giving them a lot more flexibility to decide on what to invest, and give at the same time are offering much better returns. Yeah. So over here, we have the visa programs 1AA, business innovation, 1AAB investor visa of 2.5 million, and 1AC 5 million investment visa, like Greg had just mentioned, which require only a very short 40-day stay per year, and which allow you to to continue to stay in your own country if you have a very active business commitment. Nonetheless, your family member and your wife, do have the opportunity to build up the better quality lifestyle, education, healthcare system in Australia. So, one other than business and investment programs, for past 1 to 2 weeks, we have seen a significant improvement on the general skill migration program, which has been very, very quiet for a long time. Greg, do you think that this is the right times for a lot of professionals to start exploring again on what could be the suitable pathway, and there could be, more active progress on this programs. What is your opinion?
I think for people in the skilled program,
Yes.
sitting overseas now is the best time that has ever been available, right? Because both the Commonwealth Home Affairs Department and also Migration Queensland are prioritising processing for international skilled migrants, right?
Yes.
So if you're from overseas, you'll get the priority processing not only from my team in Brisbane, but also from the Commonwealth in Canberra, right? So this is, I think the best time for skilled migration that I've ever seen, especially if you're sitting offshore right now.
Yes. Okay, great. So this is a great news. And one last words, Greg, what words do you like to have for Malaysian migrants or Singapore migrants from this region?
Okay. Well, look, I think first of all, migration is always a big decision, right? You're leaving, what you know best, the business you know best, your family ties, etc., etc. So you have to be confident where you're going, right? Is going to offer you a better option across all those areas, right? So my advice always is come for a holiday to Australia first, right? Come, in the next 6 months, book a holiday for Australia for you and your family. Travel to all the major cities in Australia if you can. Put Brisbane, put Queensland on your itinerary. And I'm very confident once you visit, say, the big cities, Sydney, Melbourne, you'll find that Queensland offers a great different lifestyle to the rest of the southern states, right? And when you consider we have the Olympic Games coming up, interstate migration happening, all of that presents a great environment for investment and family lifestyle for the future. So do the homework, do the trip yourself, don't waste too much time putting your application in because it's very competitive and of course there's never enough places for everyone, so think very quickly about this too. But from me personally, I welcome you to come to Brisbane, visit me in the Queensland Government head office at 1 William Street, and I'll be happy to give you more information about your migration journey.
So we welcome you again to Queensland. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks
Thank you so much.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you, sir.